Yeah, so in the beginning it was just me. Um, I did everything myself except write content. And in fact, the very first websites I built, I didn't even write the content. I was just like, I'm just going to research a niche, do all the keyword research, build a website, and hand it over. But then I was like, people need content, so I was outsourcing content. I think at first I was using iWriter, and that iWriter was great because you could get content turned around very quickly, but it was bad because the content was never that good, so there was a lot of editing required. It was also quite cheap as well, so I could keep the cost of the websites down. And then the first hire I made was someone to assemble the sites for me. So I was just like, okay, um, I'll give you the articles when they're done, and you just assemble the sites. And it was a very much because they were done for you sites, they were all built the same way. So it was like, here's the articles, upload them, do the formatting, and like do all the other stuff, like install the plugins and so on. And then he was quite good with plugins, so he was able to create kind of like push button WordPress installations where he would, like the sort of human proof skeleton would be there, and then he'd just load in the articles. And then the next hires I made were writers because I was sick of dealing with iWriter, and I realized I could actually get it cheaper if I paid in bulk. So I was like, hey, I need 10 articles. If you order one article, maybe you're going to pay like $10 an article. But I could say, hey, here, I need someone to do 10 articles for me for like $60. And someone would be like, they'll just see 60 instead of 10. And they'll be like, yeah, I'll do that. So then, what did I hire next? The next thing I needed was an editor, or like someone who was just in charge of the content. So then I would just give them the keywords, they'd order the content, they'd pass it to the site builder person. And then the next thing I outsourced was I brought on a project manager to just deal with everything so that I could then focus more on marketing the business and writing blog posts and all of the like working on the business type stuff. And then as that scaled, we then brought in people below all of those people. So then there'd be like the project manager would have an assistant, and the website builder would have like 4 website builders under them. And then we ended up with like 5 keyword researchers, and then we would promote one of those 5 to the head of the keyword research team so that my project manager, who became my COO, could then move on and build the writing team. And that process took probably a year and a half really to get really well. And it went from like, I've never hired anyone off Upwork to Upwork is sending me Christmas cards because I'm like a VIP customer in the space of about 2 years, maybe. Yeah. So like very quickly. And I think the real key was that I didn't hire everyone myself. I hired someone whose job it was to hire people. So I was like, so when I brought Brad on, who is the Human Proof Design COO, even today, he would be like, right, what's the biggest bottleneck? And I'd say keyword research. And so, okay, teach me keyword research. So I taught him how we do it. He did it by himself for 2 weeks. And then he was like, right, I feel like I'm competent enough. And I was giving him feedback during this 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, right, I feel like I'm competent enough to teach it. So I'm going to go out and hire like 4 Filipinos to do it for us. And I was like, okay. And so he did that. And then he trained them. And then after 2 more weeks, he said, yeah, one of them's really good. I think he should be the manager. And I said, okay. And then that was the keyword research team. And then he's like, right, what's the next bottleneck? And so it's like ordering the content and then rinse and repeat. And so we did that systematically for, well, whatever I just said, like 18 months, around 18 months to get everything done. To the point where I was completely out of operations, except maybe replying to customer emails and stuff. And we were able to launch way more products. So like in the beginning, if a customer said to me, hey, can you also do SEO? Can you also do PBN links? Can you also do ebooks? Blah, 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 blah. We would say no because we didn't have the bandwidth. But now whenever we wanted to launch a new service, it was really a case of me designing the service, Brad figuring out the logistics of how that service would be delivered, how much it would cost, how much we should therefore charge, and then training the necessary people. We would basically just launch the product, and like it was very smooth. So we went from being like ground to a halt, customers asking for refunds, wondering why their product isn't delivered yet, to being able to like launch a new service in like 2 weeks because of like this sort of
Right.
team that we built, the system we built.